My jealous boyfriend attacked one of my coworkers and ended up in the hospital. But when I refused to reconcile, he proposed to me, in front of my parents, who were far from thrilled. I'm 27 years old and I work at a small cafe downtown. I've been there for 3 years, and honestly, I like it. I enjoy the people, the atmosphere, and overall, it's been a calm and steady job. I also have, or rather, had, a boyfriend named Anthony, 29 years old, who had been in my life for just over a year. We started out casually, but things got serious pretty fast. We moved in together around the 7th month, and looking back, I really should have taken more time. Anthony always had jealousy issues. It started small, like asking who I was texting, or why I liked a certain actor so much. I used to ignore it and try to reassure him. I thought maybe he was just insecure and needed time. But in the past few months, it became something way more exhausting. He began showing up at the cafe unannounced. Supposedly to surprise me, or to check in on how everything was going, except that's not what it really was. He'd ask who I was working with, and if it was a guy, he'd get weird. One of my coworkers, Malik, has been at the cafe longer than I have. He's the kind of person who gets along with everyone, funny, easygoing, respectful. He's honestly one of the most respectful men I've ever worked with. We've never flirted. He's never crossed a line, and I've never given him a reason to. But of course, Anthony didn't see it that way. Last week, Anthony showed up at the cafe again. I was working, Malik was behind the counter, and we were joking around like coworkers do, nothing romantic, just laughing about how the espresso machine kept dripping like it was crying because it was Monday. Anthony walked in right as I was laughing at something Malik said, and the look on his face was already off. I waved at him, but he ignored me and went straight to the counter without even saying hi. Malik asked what he wanted, and Anthony said loudly, "I want to talk to my girlfriend," without some guy hanging around. Customers heard him. Malik looked confused and tried to calm things down, but Anthony just got more agitated. I told him to leave and that we'd talk after my shift, but he said, "You think I'm stupid? You're disrespecting me in front of everyone. You love making me look like a clown." And before anyone could react, he lunged over the counter and tried to hit Malik. He missed, tripped over a chair, and slammed his head hard on the floor. There was blood. Screaming. People recording. It was a total mess. We had to call an ambulance. Malik didn't hit back. He just stepped aside and let other customers restrain Anthony until the paramedics arrived. The police showed up and asked questions. Malik didn't press charges, even though he easily could have. My manager talked to me afterward and told me I should probably take a break until things calmed down. I went to the hospital. I felt like I had to, I still cared, even after all that. He had a concussion and needed a few stitches, but nothing life-threatening. But as soon as I walked into the room, he looked at me like I'd betrayed him. No apology. No concern about my job or my reputation. Just rage. He started ranting about how I humiliated him, how I let Malik get too close, how a real girlfriend would have stopped that kind of thing from the start. That was it for me. I told him it was over, right there, in front of his nurse and his mother. I told him I wasn't going to do this anymore. I left, went home, packed a bag, and I've been staying at a friend's apartment ever since. Since then, the messages haven't stopped. Long paragraphs blaming me. Then begging for forgiveness. Then threats, like I'll tell people what really happened, whatever that's supposed to mean. His mother also messaged me, saying I broke his heart when he was vulnerable, and that we should talk like adults. I haven't responded. I don't want to. All of this feels unreal. One minute I was laughing at the espresso machine, and the next, my boyfriend was bleeding on the cafe floor. I guess I just needed to get this off my chest. My friend says I should block him completely. Maybe even talk to a lawyer about the harassment. I haven't decided yet. I feel dirty. Ashamed. A little numb. I'm angry because I might permanently lose my job. I've been dragged through a public humiliation, and somehow, he still thinks he's the victim, and I'm the villain. I don't know. Maybe someone reading this has gone through something similar, and I won't feel so alone. I'm not trying to fix anything with Anthony anymore. I think I'm finally past that. But I never thought it would blow up like this. Thanks for reading. Update 1. Since I saw him at the hospital, he hasn't stopped. His mom wrote me again to say that Anthony just loves too much and got overwhelmed because he thought he was losing me. She ended with, he's not perfect, but at least he fights for what he loves. That should count. Most men would just let go. And honestly, that last sentence might be the most accurate thing she's ever said. Most men would let go, instead of becoming possessive and causing a scene at my job because they couldn't. Then his friends jumped in. Some mutual friends I used to hang out with started posting cryptic things on social media. Stuff like, don't trust the ones who flirt and then act innocent. Or, imagine losing the best thing you ever had over a joke. It wasn't subtle. I messaged one of them, telling him he had no idea what actually happened. He replied with a voice note of Anthony crying, saying I was falling for Malik and that he lost control because he'd been feeling insecure for months. Let me make one thing very clear. I never gave Anthony a reason to feel insecure. I don't cheat. I don't lie. I barely leave the house unless it's with him. His insecurities are not my responsibility. Malik, the guy Anthony attacked, is thinking about quitting. I had a long talk with him the day after everything happened. He told me he's tired of getting caught in drama that has nothing to do with him. I felt awful. He's been working there for years. The customers love him. He keeps the shift running smoothly. But he told me flat out that since Anthony's meltdown, he hasn't felt safe. He even got a weird message from a fake Instagram account calling him a snake. He suspects it came from one of Anthony's friends, or Anthony himself. And that's not even the worst part. The cafe manager has put me on what she calls an unofficial break. She says it's not a suspension, but that she thinks I should take a few days off until everything settles down. And now I'm just a burden. I haven't spoken to Anthony since the hospital, but apparently, he's been talking to my parents, and that's where everything started falling apart. Anthony's sister, the only person in his family I can actually tolerate, texted me saying, you should probably come to dinner on Sunday. Your parents and ours are invited. I shouldn't be telling you this, but Anthony's planning something, and I thought you should know. I asked her, what kind of something? And all she replied was, please don't kill me for telling you, but he's talking about trying again. Like a big romantic movie gesture to win you back. My parents know exactly what happened. It's not like they'd be surprised, but I'm pretty sure they're going to that dinner anyway. Knowing what they know, I think they're planning to confront Anthony personally, and that's what scares me. I talked to them, and they said they had to go, really putting emphasis on the word had. At this point, I'd rather not go at all, but like I told my ex-sister-in-law, I probably need to be there just to keep things from escalating even more, with my parents especially. So yeah, that's where we're at. To those saying, give him another chance, I don't think I can. And to those calling me cold, maybe I am. But after a week of being attacked online, betrayed by people who smiled to my face, and almost losing my job because a man couldn't control his temper, I'm not really in the mood to be the cool and understanding ex. If he does what I think he's going to do on Sunday, I'll shut it down. Then I'll block everyone involved and start over. But more importantly, I'll make sure my dad doesn't end up needing a lawyer. Update 2. I went to his parents' house. Everyone was dressed like it was Thanksgiving or something. His dad was grilling meat, his mom was setting out wine glasses. My parents hadn't arrived yet when I got there, and Anthony came straight over to hug me like everything was fine. I didn't hug him back, but I also didn't want to cause a scene. He was acting like nothing had happened, joking with his dad, talking football with his cousins, and chatting with me like everything was normal. Like he hadn't made a complete fool of himself just a week earlier. I felt like I was being watched from every angle. It was surreal, like a setup. As soon as my parents arrived, faces tense like they were ready for a showdown, Anthony stood up and tapped his glass with a spoon. The room went silent. He launched into a speech about the qualities of true love, which, according to him, apparently includes being obsessive and completely oblivious to consequences. He talked about fighting for love, even when it comes at a cost. Then he pulled out a box with a ring and got down on one knee. Right there. In front of both families. As if he hadn't humiliated me at my job. As if he hadn't ended up in the hospital. As if he hadn't almost gotten me fired. As if he hadn't made life hell for someone completely innocent. He held up the ring and said it was proof that he wanted a fresh start. That this moment was his way of showing it. I just stared at him, thinking, do you really think this fixes anything? I told him no. That even if we could erase everything that had happened. Which is a lot to erase. We hadn't even been together long enough to be talking about marriage in the first place. Another red flag for the collection. The room was dead silent. Everyone was waiting for my answer. My answer was loud and clear. No. No explanation. He didn't deserve one. My dad said, I came here ready to punch you in the face for what you did, but I think my job's already done. You're embarrassing yourself just fine. His dad let out an awkward cough. Anthony looked at me like he'd just been smacked in the head again, like at the cafe. Then he dropped the box, stayed on his knees, and started crying. And I don't mean a tear or two, I mean full-body sobbing, like someone had just told him his dog died. He kept repeating, why are you doing this to me, over and over. It was honestly pathetic. I stood up, told my dad we were leaving, and grabbed my bag. My mom followed right behind. Anthony's mom said this wasn't the way to reject someone who made a romantic gesture, but my mom shut her down real quick. Be quiet before I lose what little patience I have left, she said. His aunt tried to soothe his mom and physically stepped between her and mine, even though my mom wasn't actually trying to hit anyone, it was just to get her to stop talking. Then one of Anthony's cousins literally said, what are you doing crying on the floor? Get up already, you look like a little girl. That same night, Anthony sent me a long, rambling message. Said he'd emotionally disconnected. Said he was overwhelmed with love and trauma. Said he never stopped picturing a future with me. He blamed everything on unhealed wounds from an ex who cheated on him years ago. I didn't respond. Then he sent a 3-minute voice message, crying again, saying, please, let this be the beginning, not the end. I blocked him. My parents called the next morning. We argued a little about it. They apologized. They said they knew if they couldn't stop themselves from going, they couldn't really stop me either, and they were sorry for putting me in that situation. I told them it wasn't all bad. It worked out in our favor. But Dad should maybe stop trying to fight every dumb boyfriend I've had. I also promised this would be the first, and last, time. Anthony's sister messaged me to apologize. Said she only found out minutes before dinner what he was going to do. She tried to talk him out of it. Even warned him, don't do it. Her dad's ready to cool off his fists with your face. But, of course, Anthony didn't listen. And everything went down just like it did. Which honestly wasn't so bad. I'd already braced myself to spend the night at the police station bailing out my dad. Instead, I just saw Anthony cry. Honestly? That's a win. Malik messaged me too. Just to check in. He said a mutual friend told him I stood my ground, and he was proud of me. I thanked him. He started to reconsider leaving the cafe, which I think he absolutely deserves to stay at. None of this was his fault. But here's the worst part of this update. Someone told me Anthony got fired. Not like he had an amazing job or anything that can't be replaced. I mean, hell, my own job isn't some prestigious position, but it's mine. It pays the bills. So yeah, it stings. He was working on contract at a logistics company. Apparently, one of his coworkers brought up the proposal and the crying, maybe made a joke about the photos. I didn't even respond to it, but someone else did. Anthony tried to start a fight with the guy. Security had to escort him out. He's now officially unemployed. Meanwhile, my own job is barely hanging by a thread. I'm still on soft leave. They contacted me and said a few customers submitted complaints about what happened that day, something the company doesn't want tied to their image. I haven't been officially fired. But now, I don't even check the schedule anymore to see if I've been assigned. I think it's time I start looking for something new. I don't think things can really get any worse from here. I feel like I've hit rock bottom, and weirdly, that feels like a good thing. Because now, there's nowhere to go but up. Even if things never go back to how they were, I've made peace with the fact that my job is probably gone. But I'm optimistic that I can find something else. It's not like I'm trying to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I just want to work making coffee. Something I genuinely love. Update 4. Honestly, I plan to let this whole thing fade away. I wasn't going to give it any more attention. But sometimes you don't go looking for problems, they find you. I'm not sure if this next part is funny, ridiculous, or just sad. After everything. The fight, the breakup, the ambush proposal in front of our families, the reveal about his ex-fiancée, and him getting fired. I thought this saga was finally over. I mean, how much more damage can one person cause? Apparently, there was one last move on the chessboard. A few days ago, I got a text from Anthony's sister, the only sane person in that family, as I've mentioned, asking if I'd be willing to meet her. She said she wanted to talk, just the two of us. No Anthony. No family. I left her on read because I wasn't sure if it was a good idea, but she kept insisting, said it was important. Since she was the one who warned me about the dinner ambush, the one who knew my dad was about to throw hands, and she's shown some real sense, I thought. Okay. Maybe she wants to apologize. Maybe she just wants to vent about her trainwreck brother. We met at a park to talk. At first, it was just what she said. She apologized, asked how I was doing, kind of like a friend checking in. But 15 minutes in, a whole damn crew showed up. Anthony's parents. His aunt. A guy they introduced as their pastor. And a woman who claimed to be a licensed relationship coach. His mom started going on and on about how Anthony's been in a mental health spiral since I left him. Or rather, since I humiliated him in front of both families, her words, not mine. And how I'd never find a treasure like him again. A man brave enough to show his emotions, even after such humiliation. I agreed. Because I honestly didn't think it was possible for someone to humiliate themselves like that. He broke records. I asked if Anthony was coming too, because if he was, I was leaving right then. His sister looked worried and said we should probably go. But they insisted, no, this is for you. To help me see that I had overreacted. That I let one mistake define the entire relationship. They were there to help me realize that deep down, I wanted to forgive him. That I wanted to come back and help him heal, because I knew it was the right thing to do. I told them if there was something deep inside me, it must be a tumor. And I needed to book an appointment to get it removed immediately. That's when the extras chimed in. People who hadn't witnessed any of this mess, giving their 2 cents like they had been there. I didn't even know how many of them were talking anymore, so I pulled out my phone and showed them everything. Screenshots from Amy, the ex-fiancée. Texts where Anthony blamed me for the fight and refused to take responsibility. I told them about the ambush proposal. How he threatened Malik through a fake account. That he only showed remorse when things didn't go his way. And, of course, I recounted the incident at my workplace. The pastor tried to interrupt with "We all make mistakes and God gives second chances." I told him, great, then let God marry him. I'm good, thanks. Anthony's mom still didn't get it. She said I shouldn't throw away love over a few stumbles. I said, a stumble is what happened in the cafe. The rest? That was his brain tripping over itself, repeatedly. Anthony's dad didn't say a single word. Just stared at the ground the whole time. The coach, and I put that in air quotes because I seriously doubt she's legit, asked if maybe I was projecting past trauma onto Anthony. basically implying that I was the problem. That's when I stood up and told them. I'm not broken. I'm not confused. And I'm not someone you can manipulate into forgiving your adult son, who's more idiotic than possessive. And now I see exactly where he gets it from. I left in the middle of someone else's sentence. Anthony's sister grabbed my arm, clearly ready to get out of there too. I wanted to stay just to tell them a few more things, but it honestly felt like I was surrounded by circus clowns who'd escaped from a psych ward. I got in my car and left. That same night, Anthony's sister texted me again to apologize. She confessed she had no idea they were planning all that. She suspects they tracked her using the Find My app on her phone, or just followed her. She also told me she's planning to cut off contact with her parents. She's tired of defending her brother's behavior. Tired of being the only rational one picking up the pieces after every meltdown. I thanked her. But I told her the truth, I just want distance from all of it. A few days later, Anthony just so happened, accidentally, to bump into me outside my new job. A job I haven't posted about anywhere. I don't know if he followed me or someone told him, but he showed up all quiet and sad looking, like a lost puppy. He told me he missed me. I didn't say a single word. I walked right past him and reported it. Now I have a restraining order in progress. And yes, I left the cafe. I didn't know if I'd ever go back, and I couldn't afford to wait around. I have a new job now, in another part of the city. Not far, but far enough for a fresh start. Malik and I have talked a few times since. He's doing great. He got a better job, finally left the cafe behind, and now works from home. Honestly, that makes me miss the cafe even less. Some people think I'm into him or that I have feelings for him, but those are just people who don't understand that friendship can be just friendship. This whole situation left me more exhausted than angry. It's not even heartbreak. It's more like realizing you gave someone way more benefit of the doubt than they ever deserved. Update 5. Anthony's sister has been harassed by her own family. And Anthony got arrested. Yep. That's the update. I didn't know what to write for the post summary, so I figured, what the hell, and honestly, it fits. Let's start with Anthony's sister. She told me she was cutting ties with the family, and she did. But of course, it didn't go well. Given the kind of people they are, the harassment started almost immediately. Texts. Calls. Telling her it was the worst time to abandon Anthony, especially now that he was going through so much. More on that soon. They accused her of spending too much time around me. That I had rubbed off on her. That now she hated emotional men like Anthony. Then they showed up at her place. Yes, pastor and fake coach included. When she wouldn't let them in, they started pounding on the door. The most surreal part? The pastor praying out loud that she'd open her heart and the door. While the coach was yelling at her not to project her internalized trauma onto her parents. Yes. It was that ridiculous. She finally called the police because they were damaging the door. She got a restraining order. Against all of them. Yes, including the pastor and the life coach. Honestly? She might have just won the award for most bizarre restraining order list ever. Now on to Anthony. Apparently, his mental health took an even steeper dive. Things escalated, in a grocery store. He tried to flirt with a woman shopping with her child. He assumed she was a single mom. When she asked him to leave her alone and told him he was being creepy, he started crying. But also, opened a tub of ice cream right there and started eating it with his fingers, because he didn't have a spoon. According to witnesses, he was muttering about how life was too much. How he had no luck in love. How everything was just too heavy. Security asked him to leave. He got violent. The police were called. He tried to run. Both the woman and the store pressed charges. Her for harassment, and the store for assault and unpaid consumption. He was given probation and sentenced to community service. And yep, that's what his family was mad about. That's what they were blaming his sister for. Something she already knew, and didn't care about. She just wanted out. And didn't want to be dragged down with them. So that's the summary. And the details. Thankfully, this time, all of it happened far, far away from me.